Ndiyabulisa kunawameli nababukeli emakhaya. Welcome to Unmasking African Truths. I am Ubalisa. African indigenous spirituality must inform every facet of our existence as an African people, as was the case in ancient times. Inserts zethu are designed to assist you, mameli nawambukeli emakhaya, to have a better understanding of your African indigenous spirituality. As I've always shared with you that research without spiritual guidance is useless. That's the role that is played by Imboni is very important, so that we are spiritually guided to get researches that we can share with you in a context yethu as abantu abamnyama. The context of Africa being a black continent was a phrase that was coined by Westerners in a bid to mask their brutal attack on Africa and her people. Over the years, the Colonial and Missionary loyalists have comfortably hid behind the phrase that Africa is a black continent. Fortunately, somewhere stood scholars, indigenous people, and spiritualists who disputed this phrase and have challenged colonialism and missionary loyalists head on, stating that there was activity in Africa centuries before colonial and missionary invasion. Kule namhlanje itopic yethu asithetha ngokuthi na, rather we say the existence of indigenous spirituality prior and during missionary and colonial invasion. As always, andambi ndodwa ndamba nayo imbono Dr. Uzulezwe Radebe, a spiritually verified spiritual African indigenous guide, a qualified herbalist and a qualified theologian. Before singena kuyo itopic yethu, I'm going to share a research study that was done for the University of KwaZulu-Natal by Umandla Kayise Mndanda, titled The Indigenous Knowledge System Based on Religion and Healings, as encapsulated in Nxumalo and Buthelez's poetry. Ndanda states, speaks about the indigenous religion. Mamele Makha, you must understand that the word religion was used because as a people, and the ways zethu zabantu were eroded because of colonization and missionary invasion. So it's always kusetshenziswa a community religion, but we all know Africa did not have a religion. We are a people of spirituality. Umdanda says that indigenous religion can be seen in 5 parts. In no part by itself can constitute the entire meaning of a religion. All these parts are seen as working together to give a complete picture. The beliefs, practice, ceremonies, and festivals, religious objects and places, values, morals, religious officials, and leaders. This basically means that African indigenous spirituality is not formed by into A1, but it is formed through our values, our morals, leaders, that our spiritual leaders, for example, Imboniyet and Uzulezwe Radebe. And then he goes on to say that the foregoing aspects giving meaning to indigenous religion, they form core values of religion. In short, indigenous religion shows the way that people think about the universe and their attitude towards life itself. Indigenous religion is concerned with topics such as God, spirit, human life, magic, the life hereafter, and so on. In closing, Umdanda says that the indigenous religion has no sacred book in the form of scriptures. It has no individual finders. From the above study, it is clear that Africa had her own spirituality and her own way of communicating with the Creator. Tata, from the study, what is wrong with African people? Why is the African people so hell-bent on defying okanye ongafuna ukulandela indlela zabo zakwantu, although research specifically proves that we had our own ways of living prior our religion ezile Africa?
Masibingelele sibonge lapha. Of course, it's a very deep question. It's a question nami engihlala ngisho ngithi asikho isizwe esizonda njengesizwe somuntu omnyama. Mangithi ke isizwe sengisho wonke umuntu omnyama despise ukwehlukana kwethu, but every black person singabantu abazonda kakhulu. Sikhumbule kumele futhi njengoba sibheka kwi-history sibheke futhi nakabanye abeza phambilini ababethunywe izwe. It's very important we do that, because, and that's very strange, It's something that today abantu abaningi ababheki. If you notice very well, there are few people who are quoting ababethunyiwe before izinto abazisho ngomuntu omnyama ngesizwe sethu. It's very, very, very strange that few people quote them. Nalapho yakubonisa ukuthi kunenkinga ekhona ngoba kusho ukuthi though many of them bangasekho emhlabeni, you still have few who still believe ukuthi even bona babethunyiwe yini. Ngoba usubheka ke-religion, the so-called the prophets, the so-called people babethunywe ekuthiwa babethunywe in their own nations, but now babethunywe ezweni lonke, bayakhothwa ngabantu abamnyama from religious texts ngoba baphila babantu. But we have few people who are quoting African people ababethunywe ezweni nezinto abaziprofeta which are accurate ngoba nakho konke lokho okwenzakalayo namhlanje bakhona abantu abakwenza. So asibheke emuva ke, sibheke lapho engicabanga ukuthi isambulo sika Ntsikane. Uthini uNtsikane? Uthi uNtsikane umuntu omnyama nomsizwe somuntu omnyama sifana njengamanzi achithakele angeke azakhone ukubuthwa noma ukubutheka. And we can look ukuthi kungani wayesho kanjalo. It was the period vele where already the colonizers and the missionaries kakhulu were already gaining a lot of traction in Africa. Sebe converte amakhosi ethu, the leaders of society in those days, amakhosi manje impela seweshiftile from kwidalwa zethu. Sebeqala ke manje ukumixa manje, sebemixa ezi religions manje. Sebenenkosi manje ephuma kwesinye isizwe manje. And ngiyakholelwa ukuthi isizathu umuntu omnyama ezonda kangaka, yes, one would look at me and say no, it's just a matter of colonization, the power of propaganda. You are correct, but remember, Arabs, of course they are also part of colonizers, but themselves kudala nawe zama ucolonizwa by the West ngoba yacolonizwana la mandulo kacolonizwana. But you can see ukuthi they did not allow that. Now I think the good example will be Ethiopia, which was never colonized.
No, it was never colonized. Ethiopia was never colonized.
Okay, so I mean that's an African, Ethiopia is in Africa, but it's an example of Africans who were never colonized. So so the answer is not only about propaganda and the effects of colonization. It is the effects, but why those effects or that colonization have so much power and impact that so many years after, still umuntu omnyama usa-acting athi usa-colonizing, uzonda konke kwakhe. And actually le question bengimeditate ngayo namhlanje ekuseni. Ngimeditate ngayo ekuseni namhlanje ngoba ngibona ukuthi impela you look at people today, especially politicians and nabantu abazibiza what's this word, Pan-Africanists. Umuntu abe Pan-Africanist, abe politician, ilanguage yakhe mina umuntu omnyama Africa mayibuyi, Africa mayithini. Kodwa mawuya ibelief yakhe, ibelief yakhe Eurocentric. And not only it's Eurocentric, it's anti-African spirituality, because abanye abantu abacindezela inkolo yakwantu are the very politicians esibavotele esibabekile abathi they are Pan-Africanists, abathi they are African, abathi babuye exile, abathi balwela inkululeko yomuntu omnyama. They are the very suppressors of the African indigenous spirituality. They rubbish it as a non-entity, and they are promoting Western religions. They're very politicians. Now, another question on top of the question is, can you be a Pan-Africanist but not subscribe to African spirituality? You understand what I can handle? It does not make sense, because mawuthi uyi-Pan-Africanist, it means ideologically ungumuntu or believer and supporter African ideologies and beliefs, and ungoyena muntu must interpret what an African is. But yet you don't have the basic, but belief yakho is non-African. your ideologies are African, but your belief is non-African. And so for me, ngicabanga ukuthi masibheka yebo to answer that now isiqalekiso. And isiqalekiso esenzeka when umuntu omnyama turned kwidalwa zakhe wazifulathela idalwa zakhe waqala ke manje wathatha ibelief yakhe wayisa kwezinye idalwa angazazi yiso leso siqalekiso. And that is why I say in order umuntu omnyama buyele ukuba uye namandla akhabuye kumele ahlambuluke kuqala, ngoba ngicabanga ukuthi uma engahlambuluki ikhona lesiqalekiso esingakasuki kuyena umuntu omnyama, ngoba umuntu omnyama vele phansi kwesiqalekiso khona lesiqalekiso se-religion abasikota. I want it to be clear to listeners nababukeli bethu, which is utter nonsense abakhuluma ngaso. Myself, I was preached to inkonzo abantu abamhlophe nesi siqalekiso, and babe preaching ingathi revelation ukuthi nayi imfihlo hawu umuntu omnyama ehlupheka kanje ngale nonsense yaka Noah nonyana bakhe. Unyana wazangamhlonipha uNoah is the one who came to Africa and built Africa. It is utter nonsense ngoba just simple thing ongayicabanga. If science now, I think, is really all most agree life began in Africa. So how could life begin by Unowa be nationality? According to how we read it, he was a Jew. So if unyana Noah then maybe the wife bazoshunjala an African wife kwaphuma lo muntu lo nyana wazoqala iAfrica. Uqala njani iAfrica when life began in Africa? So they are starting to want life to begin somewhere else, and then Africa was then later on came. So already they dismisses, and then other facts as well. That story is not true. It was not. I'm not talking about that case where irreligion is trying ukuthi futhi isenze the permanent slaves. Samkele slavery yethu ukuthi vele we must submit kumuntu omhlophe ngoba vele thina saqalekiswa kwaseBhayibhelini. Not talking about that is none. I'm talking about the real case yokuthi umuntu omnyama wafulathelwa idalwa zakhe. And because wafulathelwa idalwa zakhe, remember idalwa zethu, they are the bridge to umdali. Kwi-African people. Mawufulathelwa idalwa zakho, obvious nomdali ukufulathela. Ngicabanga ukuthi umuntu omnyama funeka angene kinhlambuluko oqala, hlambuluke. Zikhona ukuthi idalwa zakhe zibuye, nomdali wakhe abuye. Iyophela yonke lento ngoba it is impossible, as we are saying. The very scholars and most of them actually even being of European descent, ezinye zazo, not even African scholars, ezinye zazo say no. See, we looked at issues here, we dated izinto back, and we can see that these people had their own beliefs. God, I had abantu are refusing the African spirituality. Awukhade mna demon 666 siyathuka ke phela ireligion inezithuko zayo. Ireligion inenhlamba yayo ireligion. Uyezwa kuthiwa ireligion abantu bereligion bathi abananhlamba. Inenhlamba ireligion. Yothukwa ke lapho kubizwa amagama o666 ulabelishwe ngoba utshela abantu iqiniso ukuthi inkolo yethu thina yile.
Sibonga kakhulu kuyo imboni. I think maybe in the following weeks, maybe that I think we must tackle the issue ukuthi intoni inhlambuluko yezwe, and how do we as a black people bridge like gap between thina abantu abonileyo nabantu bakuthi abase in the spiritual dimension. Sibonga kuni babameli emakhaya. Please do join us again kule veki ezayo as we bring you yet another interesting topic. Siyabonga.